Mark 8, 1 through 21. About this time, another great crowd had gathered, and people ran out of food again. Jesus called his disciples and told them, I feel sorry for these people. They have been here with me for 3 days, and they have nothing left to eat. And if I send them home without feeding them, they will faint along the road. But some of them have come a long distance. How are we supposed to find enough food for them here in the wilderness? His disciples asked, how many loaves of bread do you have? 7, they replied. So Jesus told all the people to sit down on the ground. Then he took the 7 loaves, thanked God for them, broke them into pieces, and gave them to his disciples, who distributed the bread to the crowd. A few small fish were found too, so Jesus also blessed these and told the disciples to pass them out. They ate until they were full, and when the scraps were picked up, there were 7 large baskets of food left. There were about 4,000 people in the crowd that day, and he sent them all home after they had eaten. Immediately after this, he got into the boat with his disciples and crossed over to the region called Dalmanuta. When the Pharisees heard that Jesus had arrived, they came to argue with him. Testing him to see if he was from God, they demanded, give us this miraculous sign from heaven to prove yourself. When he heard this, he sighed deeply and said, why do you people keep demanding a miraculous sign? I assure you, I will not give this generation any such sign. So he got back in the boat and he left. And then he crossed to the other side of the lake. But when the disciples discovered that they had only forgotten to bring any food, so there were only 1 loaf of bread with them in the boat. As they crossed the lake, Jesus warned them, beware of the yeast of the Pharisees of Herod. They decided he was saying this because they hadn't brought any bread. Jesus knew what they were thinking, so he said, why are you so worried about having no food? Won't you ever learn or understand? Or are your hearts too hard to take it in? You have eyes, can't you see? You have ears, can't you hear? Don't you remember anything at all? What about the 5,000 men I fed with 5 loaves of bread? How many baskets of leftovers did you pick up afterwards? 12, they said. And when I fed 4,000 with 7 loaves, how many large baskets of leftovers did you pick up? 7, they said. Don't you understand yet even? He asked them. They don't get it. 2 Sam 19. 2 Sam 19. The word soon reached Joab the king that the king was weeping and mourning for Absalom. As the troops heard of the king, deep grief for his son, the joy of that day's victory was turned into deep sadness. They crept back into the city as though they were ashamed and had been beaten in battle. The king covered his face with his hands and kept on weeping. Oh, my son Absalom. Absalom, my son, my son. Then Joab went to the king's room and said to him, we saved your life today and the lives of your sons, your daughters, and your wives and concubines. Yet you act like this, making us feel ashamed, as though we had done something wrong. You seem to love those who hate you and hate those that love you. You have made it clear today that we mean nothing to you. If Absalom had lived and all of us had died, you would have been pleased. Now go out there and congratulate the troops. For I swear by the Lord that if you don't, not a single one of them will remain here tonight. Then you will be worse off than you ever been. So the king went out and sat at the city gate, and as the news spread throughout the city that he was there, everyone went to him. Meanwhile, the Israelites who supported Absalom had fled their homes. And throughout the tribes of Israel, there was much discussion and argument going on. The people were saying, the king saved us from our enemies, the Philistines, but Absalom chased him out of the country. Now Absalom, who we appointed to rule over us, is dead. Let's ask David to come back and be our king again. Then King David sent Zadok and Abiathar, the priests, to say to the leaders of Judah, why are you the last ones to reinstate the king? For I have heard that all of Israel is ready, and only you are holding out. Yet you are my relatives, my own tribe, my own flesh and blood. Why are you the last ones to welcome me back? And David told them to tell Asamah, since you are my nephew, may God strike me dead if I don't appoint you as commander of my army in place of Joab. Then Amasa convinced all the leaders of Judah, and they responded unanimously. They sent word back to the king, return to us and bring back all those who are with you. So the king started back to Jerusalem, and when he arrived at the Jordan River, the people of Judah came to Gilgal to meet him and escort him across the river. Then Shimei, son of Gera, the man from Brunimi in Benjamin, hurried across with the men of Judah to welcome King David. 1,000 men from the tribe of Benjamin were with him, including Ziba, the servant of Saul, and Ziba's 15 sons and 20 servants. They rushed down to the Jordan to arrive ahead of the king. They all crossed the ford and worked hard, ferrying the king's household across the river, helping them in each way they could. As they were about to cross the river, Shimei fell down before him. My lord, the king, please forgive me, he pleaded. Forget the terrible thing I did when I left you, Jerusalem. I know how much I sinned. That is why I have come here today, the very first person in all Israel to greet you. Then Abishai, son of Zeruiah, said, Shimei should die, for he cursed the Lord's appointed king. What am I going to do with you, sons of Zeruiah? David exclaimed, this is not a day for execution, but for celebration. I am once again the king of Israel. Then turning to Shimei, David vowed, your life will be spared. Now, Mephibosheth, Saul's grandson, arrived from Jerusalem to meet the king. He had not washed his feet or clothes, nor trimmed his beard since the day the king left Jerusalem. Why didn't you come with me, Mephibosheth? The king asked him. Mephibosheth replied, my lord, the king, my servant Ziba deceived me. I told him, saddle my donkey so I can go with the king, for as you know, I am crippled. Ziba has slandered me by saying I refuse to come, but I know that you are like an angel of God, so do what you think is best. All my relatives and I could expect only death from you, my lord, but instead you have honored me among those who eat at your own table, so how can I complain? All right, David replied, my decision is that you and Ziba will divide your land equally between you. Give him all of it. Mephibosheth said, I am content just having you back again, my lord. Barzillai and of Gilead now ride from Rogelim to conduct the king across the Jordan. He was very old, about 80, and very wealthy. He was the one who had provided food for the king during his stay in Mahanaim. Come across with me and live in Jerusalem, the king said to Barzillai. I will take care of you there. No, he replied. I am too old for that. I am far too old for that. I am 80 years old today, and I can no longer enjoy anything. Food and wine are no longer tasty, and I cannot hear the musicians as they play. I would only be a burden to my lord the king. Just go across the river with you is all the honor I need. Then let me return to die in my own town where my father and mother are buried. But here is my son Kimhan. Let him go with you and receive whatever good things you wanted to give to him. Good, the king agreed. Kimhan will go with me, and I will do for him whatever I would have done for you. So all the people crossed the Jordan with the king, and David had blessed and embraced him. Barzillai returned to his own home. The king then went on to Gilgal, taking Kilhan with him. All of the army of Judah and half of the army of Israel escorted him across the river. But the men of Israel complained to the king that the men of Judah had gotten to do most of the work in helping him cross the Jordan. Why not? The men of Judah replied, the king is one of our own tribe. Why should this make you angry? We have charged him nothing, and he hasn't fed us or even given us gifts. But there are 10 tribes in Israel, the others replied. So we have 10 times much right to the king as you do. Why did you treat us with such contempt? Remember, we were the first to speak of bringing him back to be our king again. The argument continued back and forth, and the men of Judah were very harsh with their replies. Daniel 12. Daniel 12. This is the last book of Daniel. Oof. At that time, Michael, the archangel who stands guard over your nation, will rise. There will be a time of anguish greater than any since nations first came into existence. But at that time, every one of your people whose name is written in the book will be rescued. Many of those whose body lie dead and buried will rise up, some to everlasting life and some to shame of everlasting contempt. Those who are wise will shine as bright as the sky, and those who turn may be righteousness will shine like stars forever. But you, Daniel, keep this prophecy a secret. Seal up the book until the time of the end. Many will rush here and there, and knowledge will increase. Then I, Daniel, looked and saw 2 others standing on opposite banks of the river. One of them asked the man dressed in linen, who was now standing above the river, how long would it be until these shocking events happen? The man dressed in linen who was standing above the river raised both his hands towards heaven and took this solemn oath by the one who lives forever. It will go on for a time, times, and a half a time. When the shattering of the holy people has finally come to an end, all of these things will have happened. I heard what he said, but I did not understand what he meant. So I asked, how will all of this finally end, my Lord? But he said, go now, Daniel, for what I have said is for the time of the end. Many will be purified, cleansed, and refined by these trials, but the wicked will continue in their wickedness, and none of them will understand. Only those who are wise will know what it means. From the time the daily sacrifice is taken away, and the sacrilegious object that causes desecration is set up to be worshipped, there will be 1,290 days, and blessed are those who wait and remain until the end of the 1,335 days. As for you, go away until the end. You will rest, and then at the end of the days you will rise again to receive the inheritance set aside for you. Woo! They just told us about the end. I'll tell you that. That was my Sunday word, my reading for today. This is how I get down. Good reading, good Bible reading every day. Because whatever they want to tell you, if you read it yourself, works out a lot better for understanding. So tomorrow, I'm starting a whole nother section. I was the last book of Daniel, so Hosea starts tomorrow. But it's a beautiful thing. Take time out. It'll make your life a whole lot better. That's all I wanted to do. Get on here and do my little daily read. Now I gotta go down here and check my pool. You're welcome to come. And get my cookies. My cookies. We about to go down here and fuck with the pool. Just because I read. I ain't no little sailor. What's up, Matt? Come on. Let's go see the pool. Go play with the pool. Oops. Ugh. Hey. We're gonna flip it. I need that chlorine ball to get popping. Popping. Nobody likes the Bible reads today, but I do. About to rain, so we can't be getting in the pool now. Hey, dog.